Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. We are back to ShadowDark. We're looking at the Game Master's Guide for the Quick Start. That's some actually decent advice. I shouldn't be surprised, as the player's guide was, pretty solid. So, we'll dive right in right after I tell you about the link at the bottom of the screen. Tenkar's Tavern.games/DTRPG. It's the affiliate link to Drive Through RPG. If you go there, spend a few silvers, you'll put some coin in your Tavern Keeper's cup. And hopefully the cup spills over. All right, so introduction. You are the chosen one. You join a long and honored history of monumental gamers who have shaped countless imaginations. Their legacy is now yours. Listen, being a GM is not for everybody. I happen to be in a gaming group where everybody is by nature a GM. Any of us could pick up the rules to most any D20 OGL type game and be ready to run something pretty quickly, or run something off the top of our head without referring to a rule set because we've been playing for that long. But that is not for everybody. But if it's for you, it's very rewarding. It's a lot of fun. As the game master, it is your job to lead the table in all things. You set the bar, the way you speak, the energy you bring to the game, the speed you set carries over to everyone else around you. That is certainly true. You are in charge of the pacing. And the pacing that you may have in your, home game, your regular crew on Roll20 or Foundry or Owlbear Rodeo, is going to be different than if you're running a game in a convention. I do both. And at convention play, you want to get your players into the action and get the most out of your 3 or 4 hour time slot. In campaign play with regular group of players, hey, if we doodle around and spend an hour and a half shopping for crap for our characters, it's not a huge deal, right? Because you're playing again in a week or 2 weeks or whatever the schedule is. So setting that speed, though, does mean you have to be able to shut down the bullshit when the game goes. If you've watched the live stream, you know that me and my group, we like to kid around. We kibitz. We make jokes. It's part of our rhythm. Okay? Would we work as well with a GM from outside our group? No. We'd have to change because I don't think the GM's going to change for us. That means also as a player, you have to adjust to your GM. Every GM is a little bit different. They can run the same rule set and run it differently. They might not even realize they're house ruling it. They're house ruling it. Trust me. For an experienced GM, you go, oh, I could do this differently. You're house ruling. There will be times when you must guide a shy player, when you must firmly call for focus during off-topic chatter. I was just mentioning that. And when you must declare in a hushed whisper that all fate hangs on the single roll of a die. You do set the tone. So, now, your eyes only. That is true, and it's not true. Listen, when I played AD&D, only the DM was supposed to be the DMG. Everybody in my group had this treasure list memorized. Everybody knew, as their character got higher level, what artifacts you wanted to find. So, take that with a grain of salt. Because the goal is, if everybody who should want to be a GM should have that opportunity. Not everybody's going to excel at it, but you don't have to be amazing at it to do a good job. So, but again, GM's book, Your Eyes Only. The dire nature of monsters, the mysteries of magical treasure, and the fascinating secrets of adventuring sites are all things the character should discover through gameplay. I agree to that, but at the same time, I don't want to hold back a prospective DM or GM. So, I do agree that there was Never any fun had knowing all the surprises before they happen. So you should not be reading the adventure, even if you're tempted to, if it's going to be run by somebody else. Just don't do it. Don't be tempted. Okay? Um, in all my years of gaming, DCC RPG was the first time in I don't know, just 30 years at that time, where I read an RPG and I felt that magic that I first felt when I first read the AD&D books. So that's hard to capture. ShadowDark didn't quite capture that for me, but maybe because I've been playing OSR games, like the OSR community, for over a decade. But it's going to capture that for many. It's going to capture that for a lot of the 5e players. Do not begrudge them that. Give that to them. What to do? Describe what the characters newly perceive, and then let the players respond to that with actions. Call for checks when those actions require skill, then start again from the top. I think you're leaving out one piece that I would add, but maybe because it's my style. Be ready to improvise. Just because it's not in the adventure, just because it's not in the rules, if your players do something that you suddenly go, oh, this could be awesome, go with it. Roll with it. The idea is for everybody to have a blast, including the GM, but especially the players. So don't be too concerned about if you need to improvise once in a while and go off the written adventure because your players do something that's so bizarrely cool. There's nothing written to cover it. Improvise. That's an unwritten rule. So, excuse me. I don't know if you can hear the wind in the background here. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna be. We're going to a different pub tonight than usual, so I've got to. It's too close for me to actually call a cab. It's less than half a mile. So I'm gonna be walking in this wind. Cheers. The Game Master is the world spinner, the all-wise, the ventriloquist. If you like doing voices, the Game Master is a great spot for you. You have to play with different voices throughout the session. But you're also the pit trap, the assassin of the night, the storm, the army, the gods. You are everything your players are not playing. Now, you want to see your players triumph. Sure. Some of the best sessions I've GM'd, though, my players haven't necessarily triumphed. They have survived, and they are grateful for it. Maybe that's the triumph. But, yes. The only rule is that you make the rules. It's the rule of one. Okay? What's written in this book is a guide, not a constraint. And none of it takes precedence over your judgment. If something doesn't work at your table, change it or throw it out and don't look back. Okay. I'm going to throw something else in there. If you make a ruling that isn't covered by the rules, write it down. If you're keeping a game journal, write it in the game journal. If not, write it down on a Word document or a Pages document if you're using OSX. All right? Because rulings, not rules, only works when you're consistent. All right? That's part of the players like 5e because they know what to expect. They have all these rules. When you go to OSR stuff, there's a lot less rules. There's a lot more rulings. Rulings need to be consistent. You need to be able to go, oh, well, last time this situation happened, you ruled X, but now you're saying Y. Changed. And if nothing changed, now you're not being consistent. So write down your rulings. That's my advice. The pact. You and your players are gaming together to have fun, prop each other up, and strengthen bonds. This is the pact. The pact is often unspoken and unseen, but it is always felt. It is based on goodwill, respect, and fellowship. Its enemies are selfishness, antagonism, and arrogance. Decisions made to defend the pact are always good ones. I will throw in that, yes, when you're at a convention game, and I think this is going to be very popular at conventions, especially old school conventions. You can roll up a character real quickly, and it'll all be a little bit different. You're playing with strangers. Part of that pact is don't be an asshole. You can be an asshole amongst your friends because you're all being assholes to each other sometimes, right? You got to play differently. You have to GM differently when you're at a convention. When it comes to your home group, a rule that we used to have when we started up our Roll20 group with Google Hangouts, that's how old it was, is that we could add players to the group. If somebody wanted to add somebody to the group, and they had to understand that they had a 2-session tryout. And one person at the end of those 2 sessions should say, I don't think they fit. And then, all right, well, I'm sorry, you're not invited. Because it's a social pact. You all have to be on that same general page. So, and at the same time, you don't want to not add people to your group if you think they'll be a good addition, but let them know it's trial. Nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't mean you can't have pickup groups. That's a whole different thing, too, where you don't have regular players. Maybe you have people that drop in, drop out. That's a whole other thing. But your pact isn't going to be as strong. I do like the idea that they're talking about the pact. So, setting DCs. If you're not coming from 5e or 3e, if you're coming from the OSR side of things, DCs are not something that you're used to. But easy is 9, normal is 12, hard is 15, extreme is 18. These are numbers you're looking to hit on a D20. You get your ability adjustment thrown into these things. So, let your players know, like a charisma check or a DC 15 dexterity check, or an easy charisma check. I would say if you're coming from the OSR, give the target number, because I probably wouldn't know it offhand. Challenge variety. Each class excels at different things. Thieves loves to scout, talk to NPCs, fighters and clerics shine in combat. Wizards dominate the environment. You have to, if you're writing an adventure, make sure there's something for everybody in it. Everybody should get a chance to shine at some point. Player skill, character skill versus player skill. Characters aren't the only ones who level up. Players also gain experience. For example, players will learn where to look for secret doors and what the tells are. As they go on more adventures, they become better at gameplay. This is true. I've seen it with my wife, Rach. She only plays at conventions, but she has become a very strong player over the years because she's played, she's watched other players, she's learned. All right? So let your new players learn. Put them in positions to do so. Encourage us by giving players the opportunity to make decisions that rely on their creativity and wits, not on dice rolls or stat bonuses. Another adjustment, you're coming from 5e. Coming from somebody who had to, on short notice, like literally, you're 5 minutes late to your table. Notice, at GaryCon a number of years ago, our 5e GM for the the Doom level. Man, I can't remember the full name of it. For Rapid. And 3D terrain, the 5e GM got snowed out, never made it to Lake Geneva. I was running for Swords and Wizardry Light. Now, I know Swords and Wizardry Light. I wrote those 4 pages. Run it with my eyes closed. Well, guess what? I had to go to a table of 5e players and run Swords and Wizardry Light. Everybody got their own rule set. I had a full table of 8, and I explained what happened. And I said, no harm, no foul. If you're not comfortable with this, I'm not going to keep you at this table. It's still early enough. You can find another game, possibly. One player got up. I had 7 players left. One prospective player walking by goes, "Oh, is there an empty seat?" I'm like, "Yeah." Sat down, joined the game. So I had a table, though, of 5e players, expectant 5e players, playing Swords and Wizardry Light. And what is the difference between an old school game and a new school game? There isn't a rule that covers nearly everything. Even 5e doesn't have rules that cover everything. But role-playing an encounter, and one of my players goes, "Well, what do I need to roll to see if they're lying?" I go, "There's no roll to see if they're lying. Just I don't know. You heard the conversation. Do you think they lied? And he's like, well, no, there's got to be a roll. I'm like, there's no roll. Detect lie. Like, no, no. Or one of my other players made a good speech. I'm like, all right, yeah, you succeeded. He goes, I don't need to roll. I go, no, you don't need to roll. The games are very similar, but rulings, not rules, means that yes, your skill as a player comes into play, not just your knowledge of the rules, your skill as a player. So keep that in mind as a GM and as a player. Rules versus rulings. If there was a rule for every situation, we would be living inside the rule book instead of the game world. As a GM, you have infinite power with only a handful of rules. Stat checks and the standard DCCs can resolve any action. Okay, well, close to it. You need nothing more. Rather than pour through the book, abdicate using what you already know. Make a ruling, roll the dice, and keep going. Don't take too long figuring out what's the proper method. There aren't a lot of rules here. I haven't seen the full rules yet, but when we do, I'm going to suspect that the actual game rules themselves are going to be pretty light. If what we have here is an example, which means you're going to be making a lot of rulings. Keep that record of how you've ruled. Trust me, they will come up again, and they should be consistent. That's all. It's pretty easy. Core ethos. There are ShadowDark RPGs. These are ShadowDark RPGs' core principles and foundations. I've mentioned this before. Time. Time is huge in this game. Right? It's basically what it's built upon. Most important resource. It must haunt the character's every decision. They don't have time to search every floor tile for a trap. Darkness. Respect the darkness. It is the true foe. Few things can hold it at bay, and nothing must make those prized tools obsolete. Gear, it's precious and limited. Remember, most people have 10 slots? That's limited. Give value and utility to all of it. Action economy. PCs get one action per turn. Make it count. Use multitasking for boring small stuff. Information. Dispense information freely. If the characters test the floor where the trap is, they find it. Which is a nice way to handle it. If they don't tap where it is, well, then maybe you're using a check. Distance, close, near, and far distances are loose and don't require precise measurement. Nobody wants to miss firing an arrow into a dragon's eye because of a mere 5-foot deficit. I really, really like these general distances. I think they work out very well. Danger, casting spells comes with great risk. Magic items are volatile. Fights are fast and unfair. Monsters are insidious. I always like magic items, especially ones that have unique powers, where you get a boon and a bane, a benefit and a drawback. There's got to be a yin and a yang, some kind of balance to it. A number of years ago, I designed a sword, and upon a natural 20, it would heal the PC I was wielding it 1 point. But it was actually draining blood from its opponent. But here was the problem. If it didn't drain blood in a day, it drained blood from the PC, the wielder. He would lose 1 point. So it kind of made sure. So if he never hit anything in combat, he would start losing because he had to feed that blade. The boon and the bane. So it's a it's a good way to keep items unique and really make your players think about it. Rewarding investment. Honor what has been earned. If a character learns a new language, make it matter. They could come up with an adventure at one point. Allow new titles or iconic deeds to have an impact on the characters' lives. Checks. The characters automatically succeed at what they are trained to do. Checks are when you have time pressure and failure has dire consequences. If you have all the time in the world, you're going to pick that lock, right? If you don't have all the time in the world, you may very well fail. So I'm going to close it at this point. Next, we will get to awarding XP, and we'll probably round it off because we're not going to go through the adventure itself because that should be secret, right? Nobody wants to have that spoiled. So, folks, part 2 will probably be I don't know. Tomorrow we have a live stream. Ken Spencer, I believe, is going to be our special guest. Or did I already have Ken Spencer? I don't know. I have a schedule going for Wednesday nights that's out of this world. We have a lot of special guests. It's going to be a lot of fun. By the way, before I forget, I joined the Discord server for ShadowDark. It's an active server. A lot of conversation going on. I will include a link to the ShadowDark server at the bottom. Well, I guess it's one of the pinned comments. It's not a post. I can't leave it at the bottom, but I'll pin it as a comment, and this video goes up, and you can join the server. If you like ShadowDark, you should be there. Good conversation, great people. So on that note, live stream tomorrow, 8 p.m. Be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. And I think that's it. All right, folks. God bless, be good. I'll catch you later.